Okay, I'd like to call to order the Airport Special Management Committee meeting of the Lee County Port Authority, and I'd like to also welcome each and every one of you here today. Got a full house, so thank you for coming. So if we could please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance to start off. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. And first, before we get into our business here, we'd like to welcome our newest committee member to the podium here to join all of us on the Special Management Committee. And I think he goes without being introduced, but Ray Sandella, we really appreciate you coming on board. And your wisdom, and you've been around planes all your life, so very good addition. I think I speak on behalf of everyone here. So with that, I'd like to call up Brian, and Brian is going to lead reorganization of our Airport Special Management Committee today.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, this is the annual reorganization of the Airport Special Management Committee. Any member, as you know, may nominate any regular member to serve as chair, including themselves. And I remind you that a nomination, it does not require a second. So the floor is now open, Madam Chair, to make a nomination for chair.
I'll nominate Noah Andrus as the 2025 chair.
I'll second that.
Nominations are closed, I take it?
Move the nomination to be closed.
Okay, thank you. I'll now make a motion. I'll call for a voice vote for each yes or no on each one. So I'll just go around the room, if you could. So John?
Aye.
Aye. Randy? Robbie?
Aye.
Aye. Ray? Yep. Yeah,
Aye.
No, thank you. Scott? And
Aye.
Dana, thank you. Okay, so the voting's closed, and I'll turn it over to the new chair, and Noel, congrats, and to nominate.
You're gonna make me move.
No, you don't need to.
Okay, no,
Just hand him the gavel.
I'm all spread out here.
Throw it at him.
Please. It's my honor to give you that.
And then you can make a motion for a vice chair.
Yeah.
But thank you.
I'll nominate John Goodrich for vice chair. I'll second that if it's necessary.
Move the nominations be closed.
Nominations are closed. Any dissenting votes? Not hearing any. Nomination passed.
All right.
Congrats. Staff recognition.
That's me. I have two, Arlie and Ethan, if you'd be so kind as to stand up. There they are in the back. Good morning, gentlemen. I'd like to recognize Arlie McMillans. He's the Senior Manager of Facilities Maintenance up there on the right, and Ethan Krupp, Senior Manager, Maintenance Administration. They both recently earned their Facility Management Professional Certificate from the International Facility Management Association. And this certification demonstrates knowledge in business practices, facility operations and maintenance, project management, and strategic leadership. So great job to you both, gentlemen. That's what I got.
At this time, is there any public comment on the consent agenda? So please step forward and state your name for the record. Not seeing anybody, bring it back to the board. Are there any items to be pulled by any of the board members? No. Not seeing any items to be pulled, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent
Do I hear
agenda.
a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on to the administrative agenda. The first item that we have on the administrative agenda is 14. 14.
What about
Brian, would you introduce
item 10?
Yes. Did you say something, Scott?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, good afternoon. Item number 14, we're recommending the board authorization to extend our bond underwriter pool until March of '28, to extend it another 3 years. We went out competitively in 2019 to select bankers, and at that time, we selected Bank of America, Citi or Citigroup, and Raymond James. Since that time, Citigroup is no longer selling bonds. They're out of the market. We brought up out of the ones that proposed, we brought up JP Morgan. So we now have Bank of America in the pool, JP Morgan, and Raymond James. The reason we're asking for this extension, if you recall, just a few months ago in October of '24, we issued over 500 million in airport revenue bonds for Concourse E, knowing that we're coming back a year and a half later to finish the financing. Because of the knowledge that these three firms have on selling our bonds, they know all the buyers of the bonds. They told them that the airport's coming back in a year and a half. We feel it's in our best interest to keep that same pool, if you and the board agree. If you don't, we'll just go back out in the street and competitively select it. But I think it's really, I think it's a huge benefit if we keep this same three firms. So that's what we're recommending, because they do expire this year, so we extend it for 3 years to 2028.
Are
I'll
there
move
any,
the item.
comments, questions from the board?
I just have a question, please, if I might look at our counselor down there. Because the Board of Commissioners had set a 5-year term on this, do you think that they're gonna find it acceptable, or is there any reason why we can't go ahead and do an extension with the 5-year term expiring?
We can do a 5-year extension. We don't think that the board will have any objection to that based on the explanation and the reasoning that we were continuing with the same pool as before.
Thank you. It's got all the positives to do this, but
Thank
that's
you.
good to hear. Thank you.
Any further questions?
No.
Is there any comment from the public on this item? Not seeing any public comments, we'll bring it back to the board. I'll entertain a motion for the item.
John made the motion, and I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any discussion. Are there any objections? Not seeing any objections. Motion passed. Item 15.
Yes, ASMC, this is to confirm and ratify a First Amendment on our airline airport use agreement with Spirit Airlines. This is just a simple amendment for Spirit. We closed gates D2 and D4 for Concourse E, and we moved Spirit to the end. Now they're D9 and 11. This just reflects that change. We had to move their operation space right underneath where their gates are. That's all it is. Actually, the operation space it ended up being like 32 square feet bigger. So it's 1,130 square feet, and we moved the gates. That's all we did. So it has to be reflected in the lease.
Any questions for staff from the board? Not hearing any. Any comments from the public regarding this item? Not hearing any or seeing any public comment. We'll bring it back to the board. Entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move the item.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Yeah.
Second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Are there any objections? Motion carried. 16.
16 is similar. It's confirm and ratify a First Amendment to United Airlines. Same agreement, same 10-year agreement. This is a real small, slight change in their square foot because of a mechanical chase that is to be done through the area with the terminal expansion project. We're expanding it by 33 square feet, so it's up to approximately 1,500 square feet. So we just need to reflect this.
Any questions from the board for staff? Not seeing any questions. Any comment from the public regarding this item? Not seeing any. Bring it back to the board for a vote. I entertain a motion.
So moved.
We got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Are there any objections? No objections. Item carried. Next item.
Yes, thank you. This is an amendment to the PSA, Professional Service Agreement with Commercial Property of Southwest Florida. This is for the specific Arthrex site development for an amount not to exceed approximately $1,033,000. A little history here of, as you know, we hired Cushman Wakefield Commercial Property of Southwest Florida in September of 22. They have completed two phases. First, phase one was the existing condition analysis, the development mapping analysis, and the environmental impact. That was $820,000, and it took them 26 weeks to complete it. I think they completed a little bit earlier. Phase two is done. That included target developing areas, a whole conceptual development plan, and a detailed financial analysis. That was approximately 36 weeks, 768,000. They are currently in phase three, which started in May of last year. This is the much bigger phase. It's 6.5 million to get the entire Skyplex area ready, permitted, mitigated, ready to go. As you recall, what we're doing here today is the Arthrex. We just approved the Arthrex site, if you recall, last month, January 16th. This is a huge site they're taking, 44 acres, about 1 million square feet. They have a timeline that they want us to meet. So in conjunction with what they're doing now, we're gonna fast track this site and get it ready. They want it ready in 33 months, in parallel to what Cushman and Wakefield is doing now. So to do this, Cushman and Wakefield, they have all their consultants lined up, and we're gonna do a lot. They're gonna do a lot of things, but one of them is getting the DO from the county, a permit from the Southwest Florida Management District, utilities approval, civil, traffic, studies, wetland, panther mitigation. We're gonna get this entire site shovel ready at our cost, at a faster track than what they're doing in their other phase. So that's why it's two different things that we're doing here. So any questions from me? But I certainly Randy and Gary and Donna here too.
Do we have a representative here
Yes.
to answer some questions?
Yep. You want to?
And
Dawn
so
or
come forward if you would. State your name for the record.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. I'm Gary Tasman, Cushman Wakefield Commercial Property, Southwest Florida.
Could you give us a little overhead sight here about what some of the functions you're going to be performing for this fee?
Yeah, so we're doing basically coordinating and redundancy of the same function that we had originally been engaged to do for the entitlement section for all of Skyplex. Now, what is involved in this and the complications that we're running into, but we're solving, are lining up all of our subconsultants, submitting or preparing and submitting dual applications basically at the same time. So we're running the path of entitling all of Skyplex and running a separate parallel path of entitling and all the way through to shovel ready, the Arthrex site itself. One of the big complexities in this is the surface water management permit, which the Arthrex site we're anticipating will be approved much sooner than the overall Skyplex site. So we've had to identify, and we're in the process of working with the Port Authority and with our consultants in identifying the temporary water management that's going to be needed, surface water management ponds that are going to be needed for just the Arthrex site. Then when Skyplex is approved, we'll tie all of that back into the master surface water management plan. I have to confirm that I stated that correctly to my experts over here. Close enough? Okay.
Well, how will doing this carve-out site work impact the overall plan in terms of will it be limiting future density in terms of the rest of the site, or just what impact will it have because we're doing a carve out to fast track this one project?
That's a good question. And generally speaking, I can only give you a high level explanation. If we need to go into the detail of it, I'm going to ask Don and Josh to come up. But basically, it's not going to have any impact except for the redundancy, because ultimately the 44 acres is part of Skyplex and will ultimately be tied into the same surface water management project as the master Skyplex project. In the short run, where we're moving things along faster with the hope and the expectation that we can get a Cat X, which is an exception from the FAA for just the Arthrex site, where we would not be able to get that for the entire site.
So are you, you're gonna be doing your stormwater management plan for this site, and, what retention needs are gonna be needed in terms of, the overall plan, because is this site was already figured into the overall plan in terms of your total stormwater management project? So I'm not sure where the water's gonna be going off of this one site to fit in the overall plan.
Well, temporarily, there's several different small ponds that are being built temporarily. Ultimately, we're preserving the efficiency that we get with a master water management plan overall. So temporarily, until we get Skyplex fully approved, we're using lands in different areas that Mark and Josh and all the consultants have been working on to identify outside of wetland areas, so we don't have to go through a 404, that we're gonna use just again for temporary water management.
I see.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I went through in quite detail, and I see all the things lined out in here that you're gonna do, and the breakdown in cost, and how to justify this $1,033,000 plus. What I didn't get a good, clear feeling on was does all this include the stormwater management system, or is that the Port Authority's responsibility? I know you're doing all these other things, permitting, et cetera, but is the stormwater management system the port staff's responsibility, or are you leading that to make sure that happens as well?
We're kind of orchestrating all of the permitting. So we're getting everything approved and permitted up to construction. The Port Authority then takes on the construction. But we're all kind of working together, frankly, with Arthrex also to run it all as concurrently as possible.
Okay, so whatever has to be done, and I don't know what has to be done, but whatever has to be done is built into these numbers and built into the $1,033,000 is what I'm asking.
Except for physical construction.
Okay, yeah, just what this $1,033,000 is supposed to cover. But then you've got now about 31 months to get it done. And going back and looking at the contract, the major question is it going to be done? Because you did set a timeline, I guess, for everything 22 to 24 months. And that's my main concern with us spending all this money to make sure that we keep the contract whole.
Yeah.
Because I agree, what's our choice? We need to do this, to have Arthrex, $1 million square foot to come into Skyplex is just a major kickoff for this whole Skyplex.
Well, let me put it in
context. It's a very positive thing that's happening. I just want to make sure everyone's very comfortable with how it ties back into their contract.
Sorry to have interrupted.
Okay.
Let me put it in this context. Everything that can be controlled is being controlled and will meet the deadlines. The things that we can't control, we can't speak to, and that's why there's conditions in. So what are those? Number one, force majeure, whatever that ends up being. Number two, federal agencies. We don't have the control of how the agencies are going to react to our applications. We have the best consultants that you can get. We have the best sub-consultants that you can get. There's always still in land development the possibility that the federal agencies are gonna look at it and say, no, we want you to do this, or we want you to do that. Those could extend the timeline.
Okay, I
And
do understand that.
Arthrex is
but
aware of
does
that.
Arthrex understand that?
Yes.
And is there a caveat in the contract that they'll understand that?
There's a caveat in the contract that they'll understand that, and this is in the lease, that either party has an out in the event we can't get the federal, basically, if we can't get the permitting, either party has an out. And it's the only way you can do it in a
I don't
deal
think we're
like
looking
this.
for an out, I think we're looking for an extension
Yeah,
if necessary.
we
I'm
want them
sorry?
in.
Yeah.
Just,
An extension if necessary, is
Yeah.
that written into it?
There's,
Jesse, the out is 33 months?
mhm.
33, but the parties can extend by mutual agreement.
Yeah.
There you go. They can't extend by mutual agreement, and we can back here.
Okay.
but I mean, I can tell you that Arthrex they looked for a site, for years before this one became available. And they are all in right now, and there's no reason to think that they're not. I also want to speak to the cost. The cost is significant and not to be overlooked in any way. We've done everything we can to minimize it, but when I look at cost as a real estate person, and I think the real estate experts on the board will agree with me, you look at it more, is it a true cost or is it an investment? Keep in mind, the day they start paying rent, they're committed to paying rent, assuming they execute their options, for 50 years. And that rent's gonna start at well over $8 million a year. The value that we're creating for the Port Authority in this process is triple, at least, the process if we would have just given them the land and said, go do it. Two things. One, we don't think that as complicated as it is, that they could get through that process. And number two, if they did, the value to the Port Authority of just giving them that land at an unentitled and unimproved level would be much, much, much less. So it's a good investment. It's, in fact,
I don't
it's
think anyone's questioning
even a
that.
better investment than we had
Sure
performed.
that everything is spelled out and that we're not running into obstacles that we haven't thought about. And just want to make sure everything's there and you're comfortable with the timeline and that Arthrex will understand the timeline. I'm sure you'll have yourself documented if things get beyond your control, but seems like we're putting a lot of money in here to get it shovel ready to fit their need, so.
Robbie, I can comfortably tell you that every single thing that can be controlled is being controlled to that goal. And that I am absolutely confident I have the best of the best of the best team working on it.
Good, okay, thank you.
Gary, in that light, this is exciting. And I assume that this team that's going to be on this accelerated path is also the same team that's going to be on the back end of this. So there's going to be an educational process. We'll see some of the things come up that maybe we hadn't anticipated, which, as from my perspective, I see this as a great, catalyst, to move the Skyplex forward in a lot of ways. So is that correct? This team will be carrying on
Yeah,
going forward?
yeah, we're all in on it. And again, the cost is one thing, but the commitment to our community can't be overlooked either. And we're all in on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Any addition, Randy?
couple of things, Gary. You said you're doing temporary water management. When you build these temporary pools, once you get the master plan water management, do you fill them in and the water goes somewhere else, or what do we do there?
I'm going to let Don speak to that.
All right.
For the record, Don Skrodenbar, serving as Senior Project Manager for Skyplex Development. The answer is partly, Randy. We are strategically trying to locate the temporary water management systems in areas where the permanent water management system will be located. It may not match up 100%, and so therefore some of the areas may be filled back in for development in the future, but we're trying to minimize that loss of dollars that are going to be spent on the temporary system.
Well, I have every confidence you guys are doing it right, and we'll do it on time, and I don't have any reservations whatsoever.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much for that, Jerry and Don. Does anyone from the public have any comment regarding this item? Not seeing any, we'll bring it back to.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Okay, we had a motion, we have a second.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Is anyone opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. My last item is number 18. We're requesting the board rank proposals submitted for RFP 2518 for professional on-call business consulting services. Business consultant services, we currently have Recondo that does this for us. They're a very important extension of staff. And what they do, just to give you an example, they do annual rates and fees projections for us. They do financial feasibility reports every time it accompanies every bond deal that we do. They do passenger traffic forecasts for us. They do passenger facility applications. We've done several over the years. And pay studies, just to name a few. So as I said, Recondo, they've been doing it since 1998. They were competitively selected. Their contract is expiring. We went out in the street. We did an RFP. We got three firms came in, and in no particular order, it was Recondo, Unison, and Landrum and Brown. Staff evaluation committee was met a few weeks ago, and staff ranked the proposals in the following order: Landrum and Brown number 1, Recondo number 2, and Unison number 3. What we're recommending is to ASMC not hear oral presentations and allow us to go back to the top 2 firms. We've decided to select the top 2 and divvy up the work. I think we have plenty of work for both of them. And the top 2 would be Landrum and Brown and Recondo. If ASMC would like to hear oral presentations, we'd be glad to do it, and I would recommend we bring all 3 back at a future ASMC meeting. So
Any
that's it. Thank you.
questions from staff, from board?
I think that's very, I like what you're doing here in reviewing all 3. And those 2, I think, have strengths and few weaknesses, but where one has a weakness, the other has the strength. And I guess it's kind of like your own call. This is really
Yes.
good, so that
Yeah,
you're running
thank you.
2 concurrently there and getting the work done that much faster and more thoroughly. And
That's our plan. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Good question.
I'm good with
Okay, anyone from the public want to comment on this item? Not hearing any, we'll bring it back. Motion, Randy?
yeah, I'll move that we approve it with the, Port Authority management selecting the 2 and working on the contracts without hearing oral presentations.
I hear a second.
a second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carried.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Emily Underhill for the record. For item 19, as you just heard through discussion on item 17, the authority is planning to perform some work to make Skyplex sites shovel-ready to assist in the marketing of the Skyplex property. As Cushman and Wakefield will be completing permit set drawings in order to secure permits, we still need an A&E firm to develop plans and specs for construction bidding purposes. So some of those design elements, we're looking for an A&E firm, will be to specify the general site preparation, the filling, the clearing, roadway access, utilities, and bringing the lease sites to finished floor elevation. So in order to hire an A&E firm to assist with that final design, a RFQ was advertised on November 12th of 2024. And on December 12th, 4 RFQs were submitted. We had a staff evaluation committee meeting, which was held on January 24th, to develop summaries and review comments for your review. One of the firms was deemed non-responsive. The remaining 3 proposals were scored as follows: Bowman Gulf Coast LLC is number 1, Johnson Engineering LLC is number 2, and American Infrastructure Development, Inc. as number 3. Since only 3 firms are responsive and the Port Authority desires to expeditiously progress the selection, staff recommends that the committee hear oral presentations by both firms at this meeting today. However, if the committee does not want to hear oral presentations prior to their rankings, staff recommends that the Special Management Committee rank the firms in accordance with the scoring as I just outlined.
I would, I'd like to bring this discussion up to the board before we consider this item. Customarily, we have moved these types of presentations to the end before we do the executive director items. So I think we should move this item to after number 27 so that we could have the time to go over all of the presentations, and then while the vote's being counted, we can go into the executive director items rather than considering this now when we have a long agenda ahead of us.
So you're wanting
I'd like to
to
just
just wait for the presentation?
Table this until
For the last agenda
until
item?
after 27, item 27.
I'm okay. We're gonna hear the presentations though today.
Then we'll need a motion to that effect.
Okay. I'll move that we move, item 19 to the last agenda item in the administrative agenda, and we hear the presentations then.
I hear a second.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carried. We'll move on now to the, item number 20.
Item number 20 is a grant agreement, which has been secured in the amount of $10 million in airport terminal program funds in fiscal year 2025 to be used towards eligible costs for the terminal expansion Phase 2 Gates Concourse E project, which includes the construction of passenger boarding bridges. FA requested that the Port Authority execute the agreement as soon as possible. In order to accommodate this request, on January 16th, the board authorized the executive director to execute the grant agreement on behalf of the Port Authority. So the grant agreement was signed by the executive director on behalf of the Port Authority, and staff is requesting that the board ratify this action. To date, we have received a total of $18 million in ATP funds.
For this project.
Yes.
Board have any questions, staff? Is anyone from the public that wishes to comment on this item? Not seeing any folks from the public. We'll move this back to the board. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll move it.
We got a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion
Just a
from the board?
question. Are these anchor funds? In other words, do we extend our obligation, grant obligation on the airport for doing this?
You need to.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Are these anchor funds? Do we extend our obligation, 20-year obligation?
Brian, I'm gonna have to ask you to help me with that question. I'm not sure I understand the question.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm asking the wrong question, but when you get a federal grant, it comes with an obligation to continue to operate, right? Grant
Yeah.
assurances, yes.
Emily?
From ANCA.
Yeah, so as a commercial airport, it's different than a general aviation type of airport, but with all grants that we receive, we're bound by the grant assurances. So we're kind of in perpetuity right now. That's why you don't typically see commercial service airports closed. If there's anything representative, probably the last one would be a mixed field or what they were trying to do in San Carlos in Northern California. But other than that,
For Naples.
yeah, other than that, we accept grants with the understanding that a commercial service airport will be there in perpetuity and just grow and adjust over time.
Thank you.
Any further questions of staff? Not hearing any. We have a motion and we have a second and no further discussion. Anyone opposed? Motion carried.
Item number 21 is an airport infrastructure grant, or AIG grant, which has been secured in the amount of $11,830,895 in fiscal years 24 through 25 to be used towards eligible costs for the terminal expansion Phase 2 Gates Concourse E project, which includes the construction of airside improvements. Since the FAA has requested that the attached grant agreement be executed and returned no later than March 7th, the Port Authority staff is requesting the board approve the acceptance of this grant and authorize the executive director to execute the grant agreement on behalf of the Port Authority. And to date, we have received a total of 37 million? 37 million in AIG funds.
Any questions to staff? Not hearing anyone from the public wish to comment on this item? Not hearing any comments? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. We need a second.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carried. 22.
Number 22, in 2018, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency, CBP, began a nationwide initiative to upgrade aging airport federal inspection stations, or FIS, to current federal standards. As the RSW FIS was built in 2005 and is critical to the processing of arriving international passengers to Southwest Florida, the Port Authority agreed to perform these required upgrades. Since that time, the Port Authority has been working with the CBP on a phased approach to prioritize upgrades to the FIS, with the first phase focused on security upgrades that include a revamped control room, additional and upgrades to security cameras, upgraded passenger inspection and processing counters, upgraded secondary inspection rooms, and various technology upgrades that meet the federal standards. So as the board selected construction manager, Gulf Point has completed pre-construction services during the design and has successfully bid the project. As a result, staff has negotiated a task for Gulf Point to provide construction management services during the construction of those improvements in the amount of $3,235,838, and staff is also requesting approval of a total project budget in the amount of $4,036,825.
Any questions for staff?
Just a comment.
Go ahead.
I was really happy to see the WMDE be so positive there. You know, that they're far exceeded their
Right,
goal. with their-
62%.
That's something that our Port Authority has been very focused on and gotten a lot of recognition for. Make sure that happens.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Anyone from the public wish to comment on this item? Not hearing any. Move it back to the board. Entertain a motion. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. 23.
23 is for a contract amendment with Infrastructure Consulting Engineering, or ICE. They are one of our continuing consultants. And this is for them to perform construction administration services for the construction of the FIS upgrades.
Any questions for staff?
I just got educated today on my briefing what that PSC was and how that's controlled, because it bothered me when it said it's pending, anytime something's pending. So thank you for, the staff did really good today, educating me.
Anyone
Thank
from
you.
the public wish to comment on this item? Not seeing any. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have
I'll
a
second.
second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. 24.
For number 24, a new public safety building facility has been designed and bid that will provide a secure location for the Airport Police Department operations and responses, and will also house a new emergency operations center and satellite locations for airport communications and airport ID offices in the event of an emergency. The preferred site along Air Cargo Lane was approved by the board and the FAA as part of the most recent RSW Airport Master Plan update. On January 15th of this year, 8 bids were received as a result of a competitive hard bid. An evaluation of the bids determined that all received bids were responsive when compared with the requirements of the request for bids, and that Manhattan Construction Company was the lowest responsive and qualified bidder. Staff requests award to Manhattan in the amount of $13,116,275.06, and seek approval of a total project budget in the amount of $18,053,436.
Any questions from staff? I just want to make a comment, that, this number is significantly higher than what we projected the cost would be for this building by several $1,000,000. So I'm really surprised that, this is the lowest bid that we could get, but I understand that it is. Is anyone from the public that wish to comment on this item? Bring it back to the board, entertain a motion.
Well, you know, just looking at all the bids that came through, it was like from here to here. So I don't know what happened, you know, I hear what you're saying, but just trying to get back in my house on Sanibel, construction costs just keep, they're not going down at all. Just keep on going up and up and up, so,
Well, I just wanted us to recognize that
yeah.
we understand that.
Yeah, we better get it approved or it'll go higher.
Absolutely, or it's gonna go on up.
Yeah, if
Get
I
them
can add,
contracted.
the reconciled estimate by the architect of record and the construction manager, the estimate was $13,433,585. So that was the construction, you know, the actual, the value of the construction work, not including the professional fees.
Originally, I believe it was, we were saying right around 15 million, but that wasn't inclusive of the other components of that. So,
Someone want to make a motion?
Oh, so moved.
No, second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing anyone opposed? Motion carried. 25.
25 is related to the public safety building. So this is a contract for Half Acre to provide construction management agent services, provide general oversight of all aspects of the construction of the public safety building. So as a result of negotiations, a contract amendment is requested in the amount of $1,196,384.
Any questions for staff? Anyone from the public care to comment on this item? Not seeing any, but bring it back for a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a
Second.
second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. 26.
For item number 26, this is also related to the public safety building, and this is a contract amendment with Schenkel Schultz, who's the engineer architect of record. And this is a contract amendment for them to perform construction administration services during the construction. And the amount of this amendment is $282,898.
Any questions for staff? Not hearing any. Anyone from the public care to comment on this item? Not seeing any comment. Need a motion? We have a motion. We have a second. We have a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Number 27.
Item number 27 is the last one related to the public safety building, and this is for Michael Baker International. They were selected to perform construction engineering inspection services during the construction of this project. And so this provides a contract amendment for them to do that in the amount of $564,560.
Any questions for staff? Not seeing anyone from the public care to comment on this item. Not seeing any comment. Move it back to the board for a motion. I have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. And now we'll do number 19.
Can we take 5 minutes while they're setting up?
Pardon me?
Can we take 5 minutes while they're setting up before? the
Absolutely.
presentation?
5-minute break. Back to order. Proceed with item number 19.
Good evening, board, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
My wonderful privilege to let you select who's going to go first, second, and third.
But you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. American Infrastructure.
There's big print on there so you can read it.
Yes, sir, the ayes are the first to go.
Yeah.
Well, the chairman has a good eye doctor for you, though.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the best.
The best.
Good evening, board. For the record, my name's Robert George, Senior Procurement Manager for Lee County Port Authority. And the issue of item number 19, ranking and oral presentations for RFQ 250028, Architectural Engineering Services and associated with Skyplex Site Development at Southwest Florida International Airport. The presentations will follow in this order: American Infrastructure Development, followed by Bowman Gulf Coast, then finishing by Johnson Engineering, I'm sorry. For everyone's notice, this is an active solicitation. This is phase one of a two-phase process. So that means we are all still under a no lobbying clause. All clauses in the original solicitation are in fact in play today. So anyone that would need to contact or reach back out to the Port Authority is to contact the procurement agent assigned to this project only. Thank you very much. American? And representing American today will be Sabina Chandri, Kyle Holly, Mike Thompson, William Hayward, Robert Dowling, and Michael Cummings. You will have your being handed out right now. You will have 10 minutes for presentation. Your yellow light will be a 2-minute warning, and you will be able to have a recap with question and answer from the board. When the red light goes, you will be completely shut off.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, need to start.
Good afternoon. My name is Sabina Chaudhry. I'm the President CEO of American Infrastructure Development. I'm here to thank you for giving us this opportunity to present to you today. And on behalf of the team, I'm here to give you our commitment, to give you the resources and the staff needed to make this a very successful project. I'll turn it over to Kyle Hawley, our project manager now. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us here to give this presentation. My name is Kyle Hawley. I'll be the project manager for AID. Over the last 20 years, I've done over 100 airport-related projects throughout the state of Florida at over 30 airports. Our team, led by our CEO, Sabina Chaudhry, she's our principal in charge, and she spent the last 16 years building AID to the multidisciplinary firm that it is today. We have our architecture and planning department, led by Chip Hayward and Mike Thompson. Our engineering departments include John Plateros, who works out of my office in Venice, Florida, and also our in-house stormwater engineer, RJ Dowling, who brings 19 years of experience in the industry, and 16 of those years he worked directly for the Water Management District. Once we get to the post-design phase, construction management will be led by Michael Cummings, and our quality assurance, quality control check will be done by Doug Wilcoxon, both of whom I've worked for many years, over 10 years now, on various projects. We included a wide array of sub-consultants based on what we anticipate happening in the project, and we have the ability to expand as the need comes up as the project develops. So the project, as you know, we're talking about is Skyplex on the north side of the airfield. This is generally in the area of where the old terminal existed. Includes both aeronautical and non-aeronautical uses, stormwater ponds, existing infrastructure, and existing facilities, which require demolition, repurposing, land clearing, and then most importantly, we need to remember it is on the airport, very close to the runway identification services for 624 and the protection zones for your nav aids identified there as the ASR and your VORTEC facilities. So to kind of give you an example of our approach, this is a project that we did that we think is very similar to the Skyplex project. This was in San Jose, California. It took an existing employee parking lot and repurposed it into a hangar, FBO, and fuel farm facility. We built 7 hangars there of varying size to accommodate all the way down from Boeing business jets up to the 787 Dreamliner. And this is particular to this project because it took a piece of the airfield that was never envisioned to have connectivity or aviation use, and it repurposed it into that. So with the introduction of the Dreamliner, you had a mix of Group 5 aircraft with the smaller Boeing business jets, the Group 3 aircraft, and we had to make a connection to that airfield on a Group 3 taxiway. So instead of investing a lot of infrastructure and upgrading the entire taxiway, we were able to meet with the FAA and the airport and go through a safety risk management process. We came up with a unique design, which includes these kind of asymmetrical connectors there, which allowed the Group 5 aircraft to connect to that airfield while still allowing connectivity for the Group 3, the smaller Boeing business jets, along existing taxiway Victor. So what this did was it got a tenant into the airport. It allowed that tenant to begin making revenue, and it allowed that to happen before anything on the ALP triggered the reconstruction of that taxiway Victor. So when we talk about the best use, the highest and best use of the property, this RFQ is for an architecture engineering firm to do the site prep, the site development, and make it pad ready. But in the back of my mind, in the back of everybody's mind, you need to think of the ultimate use and the ultimate long-term goals of each tenant as they may come online. So as an example, you don't want to have one tenant come in that would prevent construction of an adjacent project, and you also don't want a tenant to choose a location that may prevent future expansion of the airfield. So even though that architecture isn't specifically required for a site development type project, and the planning has already been done at least to a conceptual permitted level, there's still going to be input that that we think those bring will help overcome those challenges when any situation arises. And that's why we've kind of developed our in-house staff to include those roles. So the ultimate goal for this is revenue. We're experienced in working with multiple different, I would say, non-traditional revenue streams. We've worked on public-private partnerships before, known as P3s. We've also done projects that included partnerships with local school districts or local counties. The one on the right there, that's in Punta Gorda. That's a new training facility where they got tax credits, and it was a joint venture between the airport and the Charlotte County school system to get it funded, and the state match. And it's a development similar to the Skyplex, in which it's the second parcel of many parcels that they have on their north side of their airfield that was able to be developed on that one particular site, tied into the master stormwater system, and was able to achieve funding through those kind of non-traditional sources. The image on the left there, that's the facility in San Jose, California that I was speaking about earlier. This was interesting because it was a private developer. Google came in and they wanted a place to store their entire fleet on a temporary basis while they negotiated the purchase of a airstrip that was about 15 miles away. So instead of them coming in and abandoning it, it becoming maintenance or liability for the airport. They negotiated a lease with Signature Flight to take over the facilities after Google left and ride out basically the remainder of the 30-year lease. When it comes to construction administration, there will be a role in that, we believe, for this process. That's why we have Mike Cummings, who leads our team of inspectors. We work at many airports across the state of Florida. This picture here is at Red Curbside at Tampa International. Mike is specifically chosen to do this role because we like to say he thinks like a contractor. So we're going to be proactive, and we want to find any issues with either whether it's our own plans that we designed or someone else's plans. We want to understand any constructability issues before they arise and before the contractor brings it to our attention, because we don't want any claim delays going back on the owner, saying that the engineer or the inspector or the tester or anybody held you up, and address those issues before it becomes a concern. So when we talk about the project delivery process, this is a very colorful chart up here, but it's basically an example that we like to use for a building project. There may be a wider range of uses for these parcels. In the example of a hotel or a large complicated building, we would have involvement with the owner throughout the whole way. That's the yellow tiles kind of in the middle. Each decision that's made with the owner, we would handle in-house. In-house responsibilities are represented by those blue tiles, and any specialty concerns would be those light green tiles, which would be our sub-consultants. I'm only showing this to kind of bring attention to those yellow tiles out there. That's the quality control process. No matter what flow chart, what path you take, we would have quality control checks to have an independent review to make sure that nothing's missed. It's on a very complicated project. It's easy for engineers, whether it's us or whether it's someone else, to miss something, to overlook something. So we have these independent checks throughout the process to ensure that doesn't happen and a claim doesn't come back on you. So the goal for this, obviously, is the in construction. It's going to involve working with many different agencies that we're familiar with. This includes the Federal Aviation Administration for any SRM, safety risk management panels, that may be needed for the connection to the airfield, any airspace studies. And then even though the project is currently conceptually permitted, there may be changes to the South Florida Water Management District permit. And we're familiar with how to do those amendments to that permit if they should be needed. With that, I would just want to leave saying thank you again for inviting us here. We want to adopt and implement your goals into the project, and I'd be glad to take the first question for anyone that may have it. Thank you.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Kyle, first of all, I thought in the material I had before, I was looking for trying to bring things together. And I like the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, made it very readable, so on and so forth. So I can step through that. I was in construction a long time ago. What is, from your aspect, what is unique about this? I mean, you obviously have the experience in different places, but is there something that stands out to you and your team that's unique about what we're trying to achieve here?
For Skyplex, I think it's the uniqueness. The immediate thing that comes to mind, right, is this was a conglomerate of old facilities. There's probably a lot of different permits, a lot of different historical permits. There's probably a lot of different as-built information on each of these parcels. And when you're rebuilding one of these parcels, it's probably not going to be in the same spot that something was there before. It might overlap with one piece of an old construction project, and the other piece may be a wooded parcel that requires environmental. So the uniqueness is something we're doing in Daytona right now in Volusia County. They have a similar task undertaking. You're a lot farther down the road than Daytona is, but they're just in the primary stages of, they have investors and tenants that are coming to the airport and saying, hey, I need a hangar, where can I build? And there's just kind of an overwhelming amount of information for the airport to say, well, what about this spot? What about that spot? So what we're doing for them is we're building a GIS database. We're taking the airspace protection surfaces, putting it directly in that database. We're taking any available as-built we have from the county, pipelines, utilities, that sort of thing. We're putting it all in that database. So instead of the airport spending hours going through a developer trying to figure out where they want, they just point them to the GIS database. They say, I want a hangar here. They click on it. It shows the restrictions. It shows the height they can build at. It shows the distances they can get close to the airfield. It shows what utilities are in the area. And that's, I think, the closest comparison to this project, and probably one of the biggest challenges. I think the mix of repurposing something that's not meant for that purpose.
Thank
You mentioned you have someone on your team, deals with stormwater. Could you talk to us a little bit about what stormwater issues you anticipate on this site?
We've looked at the conceptual permits. We did see that there was some conceptual permits submitted and then withdrawn. I assume that's probably due to the facility that you talked about today, to do a separate permit for them. I think there's some underutilized areas, but in your master plan, it does look like those storms are identified to go away. The stormwater challenges I see is the statewide rule that went into effect last June, June of 2024. There is an 18-month grace period. So if you submit a permit within 18 months, which is the end of this year, you're grandfathered into certain aspects of those rules. But there's other aspects of those rules that you'll have to adhere to, and this includes phosphate loading, things like that you're going to have to treat better than what you're required to under the old process. Naples ran into this situation. We worked with a consultant there, and what we did for the stormwater quality is they had an existing stormwater pond similar to the Skyplex facility, and even though the area was there, the pond was kind of short-circuiting itself. So if you did water tests, it was not coming out as clean as what the calculations showed. And what we found was the dirty water was coming in kind of an inlet. It was going straight through the pond and going out the outlet. It wasn't mixing around. What we did there is we installed baffles to kind of force that phosphorus-loaded water to go back and forth, and redid samples. So we, basically proved that we're getting better water quality than even what the calculations showed. We showed it with empirical testing. And I see that could be a challenge. I don't see any specific challenges with what's been submitted. Like I said, everything works on paper, but you never really know until something's built and they go out and do tests and they say, hey, what's the problem here?
So you'll be able to work with other vendors and other contractors to resolve some of these issues.
Correct. Yeah.
Your expertise to the table.
Correct. Yeah, these would be like that example in Naples. That was a modification to an existing facility, and we've done that in Sarasota as well. And sometimes it's just modifying the shape of an orifice to get the retention time you want, and because maybe the soil is percolating faster than you thought it was, or slower than what you thought it was, and in real life, it's not showing what your geotech showed you in your calculations.
You mentioned a couple of items of where there would be challenges. What do you see as the biggest challenge for this project, and what type of expertise do you have on staff to deal with it?
The planning aspect, obviously it's master plan. The airfield connectivity is going to be a big challenge, mainly because the FAA kind of mentality of you touch it, you bought it type of thing. That's specifically why I wanted to talk through that San Jose example. So we were able to provide, first of all, they wanted to limit direct connections. And this they were fine when this facility was built, when the old terminal was there. You're allowed to have direct connections from an apron to a runway. Over the progression of the advisory circulars, they found that causes runway incursions. There's, I think, 4 or 5 connectors that meet that criteria for a direct connection at this site. But I don't think you have to go ahead and build your second parallel taxiway to fix it. So I don't think the airport needs to do that now in order to get a tenant there, but it would be a strategic removal of a couple of those connections and place them back in a different location where you'd force the pilot to physically make 2 90-degree turns to get to the runway. And, of course, this has to go through the FAA and those safety risk management panels, and you know, that's going to be the challenge. It's an airport. In the scheme of things, it's a residential or it's a commercial development, but in the reality, it's an airport, and there's a lot of things that contractors sometimes aren't familiar with, and engineering firms sometimes aren't familiar with if they don't live and do that every day like AID does.
Any other questions?
Where are your offices?
I'm in Venice, Florida. Sabina and most of the other crew is out of Tampa, and then Renee is Cape Coral.
Okay, you have an opportunity to do a wrap. You can go ahead and finish.
Oh, yes.
over.
So Chip Hayward is our Vice President of Architecture. Mike Thompson, he's our Senior Aviation Planner. RJ, Robert Dowling goes by RJ. He's our Stormwater Engineer. Michael Cummings, Construction Management. And then Renee is a planner and technician that assists Mike on planning activities.
Do you want to make any final comments about why we should choose your company?
I think the only final comment is I'd like to say thank you again for inviting us. Again, we understand the importance and we understand the responsiveness that's needed, and we understand that schedules are everything, and we will adhere to that. From a cost estimating standpoint, I'd like to brag a little bit about our cost estimating skills. We come in very close on our estimates, and we give, sometimes we have to give real answers to clients that they don't want to hear and say it's going to cost that much, you know. But it allows you to prepare, or it allows you to prepare for it. So,
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation.
thank you.
The next proposals will be submitted by Bowman Gulf Coast. Representing their firm today is Richard Brylansky, Charlie Krebs, Austin Brown, and Tyler Bono. Again.
Thank you.
Big picture.
Ready?
Go.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to once again serve the Lee County Port Authority. Our firm is Bowman, having merged with them in May of 2023, formerly known as Hull Montez. The firm was established originally in 1966. All of our staff that I'll introduce today are from our local office here in Fort Myers. And I serve as a principal of that office. I'm a senior vice president. I've been with the firm since 1989. Over that period, I've served as professional engineer of record for many land development projects, which some noteworthy ones will be going over in the presentation. Aside from serving as lead engineer and manager for land development projects, I also provide expert testimony in land use zonings, eminent domain cases, and we also serve as Florida statute Chapter 190 engineer of records for community development districts. CDDs are quasi judicial or governmental districts, and they're sometimes referred to as HOAs on steroids. I've had the opportunity to be involved with preparing stormwater master plans and analyses for Lee County, stormwater master plans, as well as other municipalities, and served on many Lee County Port Authority projects, as well as acted as deputy director on some notable Lee County Port Authority projects, namely the General Aviation Terminal project.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Austin Brown. I will be serving as the deputy project manager for this project. I have over 8 years of aviation engineering experience, and throughout that time I've worked with LCPA throughout a variety of different projects. including the runway rehabs and taxiway rehabs at Page Field. I've also managed various tasks under the LCPA Continuing General Engineering Services contract, including, and I've also done hangars, aprons, and other land development type projects. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlie Krebs. I'm a professional engineer and I'm Director of Engineering for Bowman in our Fort Myers office. I've got over 30 years experience here in Southwest Florida, permitting different projects, both public and private, through state, local, and federal agencies. I do land development, which includes everything from going through zoning process, through obtaining permits, through the agencies as I discussed, and then through construction. I'm also the district engineer for several community development districts here in Lee County. Part of my job is being a district engineer as I perform inspections, prepare reports to present to the board and help provide guidance to the board, as well as do help them do future planning for projects for their own community.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tyler Bono. I'm a project manager and a professional engineer at Bowman. I have about 8 years, going on 9 years of experience locally doing land development. Most of my projects that I work on include master plan developments and their associated out parcel developments, which all include stormwater management and utilities. We also do and have experience in local municipality permitting with Lee County Utilities, and South Florida Water Management District. Here, as Rick mentioned, Bowman is a nationwide engineering firm. We have a multitude of different engineering facilities and practices, including civil, aviation, and transportation engineering, as well as land development disciplines such as surveying, landscape architectures, and community planning.
We met most of the team here today. There are two that could not be with us. That is Tom Murphy with surveying and Bill Pricey with landscape architecture. They both have over 40 years of experience in the collective fields, and both of them have worked for projects at RSW. Tom has done numerous surveys recently on behalf of the Port Authority, and Bill is very knowledgeable in the unique requirements that landscaping has to meet at an airport to reduce such things as bird attractant. We've completed dozens of projects throughout for LCPA at RSW throughout the past couple decades. These are a few of them listed here. We understand how to work with LCPA. We've been doing it for a long, long time. We would like to continue that relationship. We know how you operate and what you expect, and we look forward to making sure and give our commitment that we will deliver all our tasks on schedule and on budget.
Excuse me. Our experience with Skyplex goes back quite a ways. We started on this project in 2009. We developed a master plan that conceptualized build out of Skyplex with a variety of different type of uses, commercial retail, hotel, entertainment, and office and industrial. The land uses were quite varied, and they complement the synergy of what was adjacent to Skyplex. You had the Danos Corridor, you have the Lee County Spring Training Facility, Gateway, and as well as the uses within the airport, airside and landside uses within the airport. This plan took in consideration what we considered to be potentially environmentally sensitive areas. That was based on GIS aerial mapping, looking at hydric soils mapping, all the available data. And what we produced from this was not only build out pretty picture, but we actually took a look at the master utility development and drainage development and master stormwater plan. That was all developed back in 2009, 2010. A byproduct of that master plan with the interest in third-party development at the time, which was Madden Research Loop, was utility improvements to make development quicker. We designed wastewater and water facilities along Daniels Parkway and Paul J. Doherty Parkway. The mains were constructed, and this forward thinking by your staff allowed to foster future development, which helped spur development such as the first project, or one of the first projects being Gartner and eventually Alta. So these are some of the similar notable Lee County projects we've had experience with and worked on. As I mentioned, Gartner headquarters and Skyplex, we did that project. We also did all the Gartner offices and Gateway, and there's quite a few. As they grew out of their surroundings, and we helped them move into new spaces. Neogenomics corporate headquarters, if you've been down I-75, a little bit north of Lico, you see the stunning architecture and blue and green uplighting. We were involved in that, and I see Randy here, Mr. Tasman here. Hertz headquarters near Coconut Point by US 41, that's our project. Gateway, we've done projects in Gateway. Ever since I started in 1989, we've been working on projects in Gateway. As I mentioned, Paul J. Doherty Parkway utility improvements, which provided water and wastewater services to future development areas and Skyplex. Coconut Point Mall, where my family spends way too much money. Chico's headquarters, where my wife spends way too much money, but in all sincerity, we've been having standing relationships with Chico's, working on their headquarters. Miramar Lakes, which Charlie has a wealth of experience with development there. Hertz Arena, and finally Summit Church gets some divine guidance. So why Bowman? Well, we have vast local and land experience. It's very important your consultant should have local experience, but also know the FAA criteria, because you're dealing with development near and very important for the airport operations, that both of these work together. We have regional knowledge. We've been working as not only your consultant, but we work as consultants with the local municipalities here, many of them we'll be dealing with. We have a national footprint and deep bench of resources that we can provide. Not only did we have the resources that we just described, but we have even mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, structural engineering, all those services that may be complementary to future tenants. We operate in multidiscipline, multi-market. Maybe some of these clients that we have nationwide will be interested with this development. We're adept in energetic leadership, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Excuse me.
My apologies for excusing myself. I'm very familiar with Stanley Hole and Sergio Montez. They were both good friends of mine. Did you buy the firm? Did you merge with it? What was the relationship there?
Well, I was a principal in Hole Montez, and we were the partners who bought out Stanley and Sergio when they decided to retire. And then in May of 23, as I said, Bowman bought our company and bought our shareholders out, and now they're the principal. And Bowman is a publicly traded company. They have over 2,000 employees nationwide. As we mentioned, over 100 offices, 15 in Florida alone. 2 of the offices are former Hole Montez offices, one in Naples and one in Fort Myers. And I manage the Fort Myers office.
Randy?
You said that you guys worked on some of our initial Skyplex plans.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure you're familiar with what Don's doing out there now. And he's going to be taking his piece that's going to be Arthrex. And that's sort of part of what you're bidding on today. But you two are going to have to be kind of working hand in glove, because we have a requirement to get this piece done for a special purpose, which is to build a 1 million square foot building. Do you see that as a problem at all?
Let me use an example. When we did Gartner, that project, fortunately, it was an economic development project, so we got support from the county to accelerate our design review by them. But we were able to get our development order in 60 days and our water management district permit in 90 days. That's unheard of. We actually started on that project in March. We had all the permits by August. That's starting fresh, starting the surveying, starting the data gathering. So I think that experience and that success is going to be rolled over to this project, no question. We've got great relationships with the regulatory staff, both local and statewide. So
And
we
also
look
a
forward to it.
follow-up to that. Water management's always the problem, okay? Do you see that you could, you may have heard some of the discussion that we had with Mr. Tasman about temporary water and then putting it into the overall. Do you see that as being accomplishable so that they can get their project going and then wrap it into what you would be planning?
We actually did the same thing for Gartner. We did initial phase that had the least amount of impacts, de minimis impacts to any wetland areas. And we permitted that first, and then later we permitted a parking expansion, which did have some wetland impacts, and permitted that later, and then they moved into that later. They could deal with this base project and then work on the addition later. So, and that proved to be very successful. It gave them time to build the building. While they were building the building, we were finishing up this last bit of regulatory permitting, and they were able to get everything they wanted when they actually needed all their staff to be on site. So it worked out perfectly.
Super.
And that was first phase was about 11 acres, excuse me. And then I think our total square footage of our building was about 250,000 square feet.
Yeah, I was on the board when all that was happening.
Yes, sir, I know.
Any further questions? You have 2 minutes to wrap up.
Well, thank you. So once again, we appreciate it. We've always enjoyed working for the Port Authority. We've always enjoyed working with the Port Authority staff. We want to continue that. We do have energetic and eager staff to start on this project, me included, and we look forward to it. And I think our biggest point that we would like to bring is that we're local. We're here to respond quickly. We've done that in the past for you. We've been involved with your hurricane cleanup afterwards and checking out the airfield to make sure everything's working in order. So we appreciate the relationship we have with you, and we want to continue it. And we thank you.
Thank you very much for your
And I'm sorry for my throat.
Okay.
I need some water.
We got it out there.
Yeah, I'm going to join you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And wrapping up today's presentations will be Johnson Engineering. We have Tyler Sharp, Steve Ball. Which Laura do we have?
We have Laura Herrera.
Laura Guerrero. Excellent. Okay. So again, you'll have 10 minutes when the yellow light comes on.
Light goes next.
You'll have a 2-minute warning. When it goes red, be quiet. Or that lady down there will tell you.
When the light goes, which light are we looking at? All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tyler Sharp, and I'm a professional engineer with Johnson Engineering. I wanted to start out today by thanking you for allowing us to be here to present our qualifications for the architectural and engineering services associated with the RSW Skyplex site development. Little company overview, Johnson Engineering was established in 1946 with our main office and headquarters in downtown Fort Myers, and it's been there for 79 years. We have almost 140 employees, almost 120 of them which operate out of our downtown Fort Myers office. As you can see here on our map, we're only about 13 miles from Skyplex and downtown Fort Myers, walking distance to multiple permitting agencies, which we'll need to obtain permits from. We were acquired by Apex Companies in 2024, but we are the same local team now with additional resources. In-house services. We're comprised of mainly 8 different disciplines, including land development, water resources, transportation, utilities, environmental, surveying and mapping, planning, and landscape architecture. So you essentially have the horsepower of 8 consulting firms under one roof, with one point of contact being me as your project manager. Key project team, here's an org chart with the Port Authority up top as the client, myself as the project engineer, and Steve Ball as the deputy project manager. We just show the directors of each one of our disciplines here that I previously described on the last slide, and each of which has a small army underneath them of experts in their fields that we can utilize for this project. Firm experience. So on the left here, we have Port Authority experience and projects that have been involved with. I mean, just starting out in terms of Skyplex, we just completed the Chamberlain Parkway realignment, which included realigning the roads, studying all the utilities, the adjacent water management system. We're very familiar with the area. We even did some site planning for some hangars on the north side of the airport as a part of that. We've done plenty of Skyplex consulting in the past, also from an environmental and planning standpoint, going back 5, 10, 15 years. Multiple other substantial projects for RSW, Page Field, helped the Port Authority with their mitigation part. And then in the top right of the slide, we have miscellaneous land development projects that we've completed in Southwest Florida. I mean, just to give you an idea, you start with JetBlue Park across from Daniels from Skyplex, Gateway, the backbone infrastructure, the Forum, Gulf Coast Town Center, Lee County Sports Complex. The list goes on and on of substantial projects here in Southwest Florida. Project manager experience. This is me. I've been with Johnson Engineering for 13 years now and have completed over 100 projects. So this is just a long list of projects that I've completed, some in Lee County, some in the city of Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and they range in uses from multifamily residential, single family residential, commercial, industrial, medical, pretty much any type of use that's going to go in Skyplex. I have done projects of that type of use in the local area. Deputy project manager experience, Steve Ball here. He brings 9 years of experience in the construction industry and the engineering field. He's been with us for a little over a year, coming from another local consulting firm before that. Very relevant experience, having completed projects in the local area, big industrial parks, commercials, establishments, hotels, schoolwork, medical. Very relevant experience as permitted through Lee County. Multiple projects. Project understanding. So as we know and have talked about today, you guys have commissioned Cushman Wakefield under the commercial property of Southwest Florida LLC to lay the groundwork for the Skyplex development. So here's a list of not everything they're doing, but most of what we saw in their scope to do an amendment to the plan development of Skyplex, get a conceptual ERP through the Water Management District, irrigation and dewatering, water use permits, an Army Corps of Engineers Section 404 permit, master utility plan, geotech studies, wetland and panther mitigation plan, which is fantastic to have that we can operate under, some cost estimating, and a real estate study. So we believe we will be assisting the Port Authority with future development of individual sites within Skyplex and various infrastructure improvements by designing and permitting potential future sites for third-party tenants and buyers, roadway improvements such as traffic signals, bridges, turn lanes, sidewalks, things of that nature, miscellaneous recreational amenities, fountains, signage, or other decorative features that could enhance the overall site. Project approach. So similar to how we maneuver through our continuing services agreement through the Lee County Port Authority, whenever a task comes up that we're going to complete, this is essentially how we'll go about it. We'll have a contract development stage, preliminary site assessment, design, permitting, pre-construction and construction services, and certification. So in the contract development, the first thing is understanding what we're doing. Are we doing a 100,000 square foot commercial development, or are we doing a turn lane or a bike path or a fountain? We need to understand what we're doing so we can determine what consultants are required. We could build our team. We'll then develop a scope and fee, and then we'll also lay out a schedule for you guys so you understand how long it's going to take us to design, permit, construct, and everything for planning purposes. Preliminary site assessment. Some of this will be done during contract negotiation because we need to know it to develop our scope and fee, but a lot of it will be done once we're signed up here. So we'll do a land development regulation review everything that's in the PD, review land development code that are applicable. We'll send our environmentalists out to the site to see if there's anything we need of concern that we need to deal with in permitting. We'll send our surveyors out, get a boundary, get topo, review title work, make sure there's not a giant easement running through the site that's going to blow up the site plan later. And then we'll move into a conceptual site planning of the site itself. That leads into design. So I have architectural building plans potentially by others. This RFQ does include architectural services, which to me means the Port Authority might want us to do some sort of building or vertical structures as a part of our services. So in that case, we will need to sub in an architect, potentially structural engineers, MEP, or whatever to complete that task. And we do have the experience doing that. We have multiple municipal contracts right now where we're the prime consultant and we have architects as our sub-consultants completing things of that nature. We'll obviously do civil engineering plan, including laying out your parking lots, stormwater, utilities, everything. Landscape architecture, we'll have minimum code for Lee County, potentially betterment plans if the client wants that. And we'll also make sure all the plant species are compliant with the Port Authority plants so we're not drawing in a bunch of birds that are dangerous for the aircrafts. Photometrics, we'll obviously need to light the site so it is safe at night. Permitting. We're in unincorporated Lee County, so we will be obtaining Lee County development orders for everything. If we're doing smaller things, we could be getting LDOs, but either way, we're permitting through the county. We'll need a water management district ERP modification to the conceptual permit that these guys are getting. And we'll probably need Army Corps of Engineers and Fish and Wildlife coordination under the master permits that they're obtaining. I think we just need to check with them and make sure everybody knows what we're doing under the master permits. We'll have utility permitting through LCU and DEP, NPDES permitting, potentially Lee County building permitting if we're doing vertical structures, and we'll need FAA and NEPA documentation and permitting also to make sure we're complying with their regulations. Pre-con and construction services, we can assist with cost estimating so you guys can budget appropriately for each one of our projects. Bidding assistance, we can complete bid tabs, answer RFIs from contractors, help you guys navigate the bidding process. Once you award a contractor, they'll be submitting shop drawings, submittals, we'll review and approve them for construction, and we'll also complete construction observation while the project is being built. In the certification process, we'll be completing final inspections as the projects start to wrap up, and we'll develop punch lists for the contractors so they know what little things need to be done to wrap up the project. In the meantime, we'll be developing record drawings based on the as-built that were provided by the construction surveyor and the general contractor because we need them for permit closeout. Leading into permit closeout, we have to provide certifications to all the authorities having jurisdiction that we obtain permits through, Water Management District, the county, and everything. So we need to close out those permits as your professional consultants. Why choose the Johnson Engineering team? Again, we are a multidisciplinary consulting firm, so you essentially have the horsepower of 8 consulting firms under one roof with one point of contact being me to help you through the project. We have an experienced team and local project manager. I mean, our team is so experienced. The director of planning does so much with the Port Authority, environmental, stormwater, transportation, incredibly experienced with Port Authority work. I am a local. I live here, work here, play here. I take great pride in our community. Proven commitment to the Port Authority, as evidenced by all the projects we've completed for you and are currently completing and why we're here today. We have local expertise with Lee County land development. We're permitting through Lee County all day, every day. That's what we do. We know the people down there. We know who to call to get answers. We know their processes. We have expertise in getting the permits that you guys are going to need to obtain. And on-call responsiveness. You guys call, we pick up the phone. You need us here, we're 13 miles down the road. I'll drive down and meet you. So with that, I'll wrap up and say thank you and ask if you have any questions.
Questions? One of the questions I have, maybe if you could explain to me, I see on your list here of different permits that Cushman Wakefield's going to be getting. And then I see also in your chart here what you're going to be doing. Can you tell me how what they're doing is going to mash with what you're doing? if they go and get a, overall site plan, development approved with stormwater and all the rest of that, then, how does it change what you're gonna do on each individual site?
So they're gonna get master permits through the water management district that's gonna lay out the requirements for each individual site. So we just need to read it, understand what's in it, develop our site accordingly, and then discharge into their system. So it's fantastic that you guys have laid the groundwork and we have these master permits that we're gonna be able to operate under, so we can review them, understand what each individual site needs, develop the site accordingly, and it should fast track the permits that we need to obtain for the individual things that we're going to be doing.
Are you going to have any input into what they're doing?
I think they know what they're doing, but I'd be glad to work with them if they would like.
Well, are you, they're gonna be their boss, or are they your boss?
I am not going to be their boss. They are working for the Port Authority to master plan everything. We will work for the Port Authority to complete individual projects, and I assume we will be working together to make sure we can get the permits as fast as possible.
And so if you come to a situation where, what's been, permitted on the master plan is not gonna fit on the site plan, what do you do then?
We will need to amend the master permits potentially, in which they could do or we could do. Again, it's going to be a coordination effort between all of us to get Skyplex developed. It's a massive development.
You guys worked together in the past?
I think our firms have worked together, the engineering firm that they have, and I know of these guys. They're kind of local legends in the commercial real estate world.
Well, I'm just concerned that, we don't end up with a master plan that's not going to work on the individual site level.
Understood.
So I just wanna make sure that there's gonna be coordination there to, if you see something that's not gonna work with your area of expertise, that you would be able to provide input into that process.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd be more than willing to work with them.
Right?
Howard, obviously you've got a great resume with people and process and stuff. I know Cushman very well. Can you give me a specific project that you worked on together collaboratively?
With Cushman Wakefield? No. No. They're a commercial real estate broker. Typically, we're working directly for developers and municipalities and things like that. It's a unique situation they have going on there.
Robbie?
I'm glad, Chairman, you were asking this question, because I was sitting here like, are they running in tandem with each other? Is it gonna be conflict with what they're doing? Because we know what they need to do, we're under contract, needs to get done. And then, are they gonna be doing the same thing but on different sites? I don't know why we're running this
Right.
so quickly now, and maybe that's a staff question. Are we just trying to get ahead and keep the sites going, or what?
I think I might
Answer,
clear
but I don't
this
want to
up
put my foot in my
for
mouth.
you guys. Mark, this
Right.
is on a per site call basis, what this is, and Don's doing the master plan? How's this supposed to integrate?
Yeah,
That's
the
our
question.
confusion.
That's the question.
The question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Come on down, join our presentation, Mark.
I guess we thank them for their presentation.
Yeah. Don't eat into your time. Yeah, for the record, Mark Fisher. No, they'll be working in tandem. That's why we're bringing them on board now to work with Cushman and their team. But the intent is under the Cushman contract that you approved before and today. They will be bringing all the paper entitlements. They can't do any construction drawings, construction plans. So they'll take that permitting effort all the way to the paper entitlements. Then these guys will pick it up and actually build construction drawings and then oversee the, participate in construction as they've outlined. So there's a clear break on responsibility, but because you need engineering plans to secure the permits,
Right.
we want them talking to each other early so that whoever's selected today knows what actual construction is going to be done, and whatever construction is going to be done, the Cushman team has that benefit of knowledge as well.
Because at this point, we have no idea what buildings are going to get built where. We're just selecting areas where we'd like to see it, isn't that right?
Yes, sir. We do have one project right now. That's Arthrex.
Right.
The rest of it is a big blank canvas, and that'll be as a result of the Cushman effort do we need to build roads? Do we need to build sidewalks? Do we need to build the water retention system? The Port Authority doesn't have the funds to go out and spend $1 gazillion for a master drainage system, so it'll probably be phased.
Right.
So all of that will be developed by Cushman as part of their phase 3 effort. This firm will work with them, and as things pop and come to you, the firm that you select today will actually do the engineering for construction.
Okay, so let me get this straight. I'm sorry. We have a project which is called Arthrex.
Yes, sir.
They will also be working on that one as well.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I got you. Okay. So what I'm
Cushman will be,
hearing-
They will?
Cushman
No,
will
wait.
be securing the paper permits, and the firm you select today will do the engineering to build it.
Permitted through the building permit.
So it's what I'm hearing here is that Cushman Wakefield better get on the ball and get some leases so these guys have a job.
So, is it unfair to ask, is that what we
fair.
understand from them?
No, go ahead.
I mean, I don't know if they should take the podium. I just want to make sure that one's not going to be overlapping the other, or they're going to have conflict, because I guess what you're saying is they're doing renderings for engineering, but then, like, they're not really going to do construction, because wouldn't Arthrex have their own contractor that they want to do construction, right? And then is this marketing, if they're doing by site, are they just doing conceptual of what could be? Is that what they're doing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and
Is that-
again, there's two things that the firm you're selecting today would be doing. They would be something very similar to Arthrex, where as part of an agreement, the Port Authority has to bring it to site ready. But that's fill, drainage, access, everything. That's physical work, not permitting paper entitlements. Cushman is under contract to do permitting paper entitlements. The firm you select today will be doing the engineering to build it. So it'll be sites,
Skyplex is what they're doing?
both firms you're selecting would be
Okay.
doing that. That's what Cushman is doing for 300, 400 acres. The engineering firm you're selecting today would be doing 340 acres.
Okay.
So the tasks that will be assigned to the firm you select today will be very similar to Arthrex, where it's a site-specific, or if Cushman brings to the board, it's not site-specific, it's infrastructure-specific. Fiber, drainage, utilities, sewer, water, sidewalks that aren't really tied to a specific project, but we think we need to better the site for marketability. The engineering firm you select today will be doing that. Engineering for construction work as well.
So what happens if one comes to us and says, I can't build it the way it's designed? Imagine that.
That's what I just did.
Yeah, we're dealing with that, actually. And I just don't want to see a situation where there could be finger pointing, oh no, they did this. we
Well,
did
again,
that. This is not our responsibility.
The Cushman team is doing paper entitlements. You're only hiring one engineer to do engineering for construction. The engineer that you're hiring today, or recommending for it to be hired today, won't be doing the construction. They're just the engineer. There's a construction manager RFP that we have out on the street. They'll be coming back to you. That'll marry up with the engineering here. So if that makes sense, you're hiring a permitting planner broker. You're hiring an engineer for construction and a construction manager to build whatever the engineer designs.
To be determined. on
To
that.
be determined and brought to you for selection. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mark. We appreciate that. And you have 2 minutes to wrap up.
All right, well, again, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be here. I think the presentation and everything speaks for itself. We're very excited at the opportunity, and we hope you choose us to be your consultant to develop Skyplex. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. While we collect the votes, we'll move ahead, and now we have the executive director items.
go, young lady.
Did you vote? Okay, Steve.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just have two quick updates for you. The first is Breeze Airways announced that they will begin seasonal summer service to Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina, which will start on May 1st. And that'll be a new market for RSW. And that flight will operate twice weekly on Thursdays and Sundays. And then over at Page Field, this past January, they had 263,000 gallons of fuel sold in the month of January, which is a 5% increase year over year from January 2024. So the folks over at Page Field are doing a wonderful job getting those general aviation aircraft in and out of here, especially over this last President's Day weekend. So kudos and continued kudos to the team over there as well at Page Field and Base Ops. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anything from the Port Attorney?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from the Special Management Committee want to make a comment?
Just appreciate Robbie's service for the year. She did an excellent job, and
Yeah.
I'm just crying because now you're the chairman, and she was so good. It's
careful,
gonna be
he's got
hard
the
for you to.
You did very good today. Never missed a public.
Well, once again, I would like to welcome Ray. Ray
Yes.
brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the board, and it's really great to have him. It's also, I'd like to recognize all the many years of great service that Fran gave this board, and I wish her well in what it rest of her pursuits. And any other public comment on any other items on the agenda? Not hearing any additional comment, the meeting is now
Nope.
adjourned.
Yeah.
We got,
No.
yeah, we got to.
Public
Oh, you did
Court
really
attorney.
good. Oh, that's
Objection.
very
My eagerness
Jinxed
to
you,
get
we
out of
jinxed
it.
you.
Okay,
We got your back.
Waiting on the tally.
we have to do a final motion here.
Yeah.
Almost got
But excuse yourself there.
I think there's some left.
It's good to have you on board. Huh? Yeah. Hey, Ray.
Unfortunately, committee, there has been a tie, therefore I am going to have to ask the board to do a revote. So the ladies will hand back out tabulation sheets and let you take one more shot.
Is there one we can eliminate?
Wait a minute.
Can we eliminate the third place person?
Just the two tied firms.
So they are?
Those would be Bowman Gulf Coast LLC and Johnson Engineering LLC.
Thank you.
Never happened. First time for everybody.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember this happening. Thank you. So we take out number 3.
Wow. Right. Yeah, I've worked 10 years, this never happened.
This thing we just happen to have extra paper. Can't be another tie. Could be. Hey, Ray, did you fly with the, was it the, did you fly with? Sorry.
No, he wanted to see this. And he wants to do it. Nothing, yeah.
I never remember that ever happened. No, been 10 years, I've never seen it. Yeah. I think that's right. I know I have a hard time too. Lasers, but everybody knows your name. You just walk around the test. I get that all the time.
Yeah.
Rob-
Stand like I do.
Yeah.
John, you've been very quiet.
I understood it. Well, I was gonna ask some questions, but one of them.
Yeah.
You got the microwave, one of the questions about Arthrex. The entire site.
Yeah.
How about, you know, how do you deal with that or that would kind of problem, but. They both, yeah, they both seem to understand. They both seem to. It's just to do the engineering.
Almost a coin toss.
Can't be almost.
Bowman Gulf Coast LLC will be in our first place for evaluations. Johnson Engineering, second selected firm, and AID was our third. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I need a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion to accept the nominations
I would second that.
results, and we have a second. Any further discussion? Anybody opposed? Motion carried. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.
Court attorney items.
All right.
Court attorney items.